From Wall Street to Main Street, this is LALATE.
It's a big evening of Evenings LALATE with your fourth stimulus check update of 2021 in tonight's special live report. Live and direct from Santa Monica, California, we go over what happened to the fourth stimulus recon. That was supposed to become a law by July 4th, supposed to become a law before Memorial Day and Labor Day weekend, supposed to become a law before Christmas. And tonight, it's now supposed to become a law by the end of January. So why did this happen and who is to blame? Moreover, when were the warning signals at issue across the board? The great news is that all those incredible checks that are in that recon are stayed in there. The big paydays we've always talked about on this channel still on point. The MSCs still an issue to be included. Everything that paid you a lot of checks, upwards of $15,000 still in that recon. But the question is the voting date. The voting date that seems to be the most elusive situation across the board. As many as Americans wanted that money for the purchase of your first home before the holidays, wanted that money for hazard pay and those elder care right now, wanted that money for those home repairs and wanted it right now. Third stimulus still paying money across the board. Coming back to this channel over this weekend, I'll have all the latest details about third stimulus. But the question is, what happened with that recon? In tonight's live report, direct from Santa Monica, California, I go into the live chat and interact with you once again the second time today and go over where this recon was, where it's now, and where it's heading. How do we get that recon done, and how do we get to the finish line? It will go over the finish line. That's the first point. Number two, it will go over the finish line after Christmas. That is number three. And number four, key provisions of the third stimulus are set to expire. So what went wrong and how can they fix it? I have all those incredible details. Plus, I'll be answering your questions in the live chat. We'll be going over our opinions of the situation, interacting with one another, as we as a community get an understanding of where this recon is going, the biggest payday we ever see in the history of the channel. This is a special live report for Evenings LA, and it's starting right now. Hey, good evening, everybody. I hope you're having a beautiful evening, and thank you for joining me on a special live report from Santa Monica, California. You're watching Evenings LA with a special live report about your fourth stimulus check update of 2021. The fourth stimulus check and all those many checks in that incredible recon that pay about $15,000 was supposed to become a law in July. Initially, we were told it was supposed to become a law on July 4th. What was it then, and what is it today? A very different situation, and the situation continued to evolve. Let's take a step back, understand where it was 2 weeks ago, where it was 2 days ago, and where it will be in 30 days from now. I'm going to answer your questions in the live chat in just a second, and we'll be interacting across the board in a special recording to show you and give you an update of where everything is, because it is confusing. And I'm glad you're here. All right, let's start with this incredible recon. The recon was originally not a standalone object. It was part of an enormous program debuted by the President of the United States in early March of 2021. This is the very first channel that made a recording calling it fourth stimulus recon. I coined the expression. And at the time, it was a body of law that encompassed two items: roads and bridges, aka infrastructure, and also your recon. And we were told, the American people, by Leader Schumer, head of the Senate, and Nancy Pelosi, head of the House, that the vote would be called and would become a law by July 4th. Why? Because they believed that they had enough legislators on board to call the vote and pass it. Was it an accurate statement when said? It was an inaccurate statement when said. Did they ask the legislators? They clearly did not, because had they asked the legislators, they would have learned that was an inaccurate statement. Not good situation across the board. The first error came from the White House, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, in determining that everything would go into this kitchen sink of this package. It was not just roads and bridges and also your money. It was also climate, a very divisive issue. Now, understand, the United States has never passed a climate provision of this magnitude, $550 billion. At the time, the recon was $3 billion, and they went nearly a quarter of it to just go to climate. Why? Because the president was slated to go to a major climate conference, the first of its kind, in a few months, and the president has to have an allegiance to other world nations, say, I'm dedicating this type of money. Now, at issue was that no one in this White House ever thought that there may be a senator who's a Democrat who's against climate. Oh, why would a Democratic senator be against climate? It's such a Democratic policy. Well, in the state of West Virginia, one of the poorest states in the United States, burning coal is their industry. It's how they make money. It's their livelihood. Whether you're rich or poor, it's how they make money. The biggest donors to its senator, Joe Manchin, are coal manufacturers. No one thought about this. It sounds so ridiculous that no one thought that you need every single senator, and one of your senators is in a coal-burning, anti-climate state with anti-climate benefactors to that senator, that everything would pass punky-dory. And keys up the first question. Number one, why did no one in this White House ever realize that putting a provision about clean energy in there would isolate Joe Manchin? They never realized this. It's simply unconscionable that no one between March and September understood that a clean energy provision that would unemploy half of the population of the state of West Virginia would isolate that senator. Until finally in September, someone had a wake-up call and took it out. They wasted all those months because of one provision which isolated Joe Manchin until it took it out. And he didn't keep it a secret. He told them back in March, you're never going to get a vote in favor of this recon if you leave that isolating provision in there. Well, finally someone woke up. But that was not the only problem. The other problem was that the recon and the roads and bridges and the climate was enormous. $3.1 trillion. Asking too much? Yes. Very overreaching? Yes. Necessary to do it that way? No. This is what's very strange here, folks. Chuck Schumer, early in the start of 2021, reached out to Senate parliamentarian with a bizarre idea that at the time I thought was totally strange, but it worked, that he could have multiple recons and renew a prior recon, trying to basically save up as many recons as you can. What is a recon? A recon means you do not need a Republican vote. You can do it all with senators. Great if you're doing lots of recons. And here is what happened. Second stimulus, third stimulus, $2 trillion. Fourth stimulus, $3 trillion. Fifth stimulus, $1 trillion. This is what they were looking to do, and this was a graphic from this channel back in about March. They thought that they could just save this and get this done. They were in fact talking about, okay, fifth stimulus would be saved up for these provisions across the board. And the push by these senators was to keep as many recons in your back pocket. So if you're keeping as many recons in your back pocket, then why not take the climate out and put it as its own recon? It just sounds infantile. It just sounds idiotic that you want to do 20 things, you do them all at the same time. Why? I like pizza, I like chili, and I like hot dogs. I'm going to eat them all at the same time. Who does that? Brian Deasy? Brian Deasy is a shoe. Who has all your policies in the same body of legislation? It was ridiculous. It's as though Joe Biden's going to be one term and is going away in 1 year. Maybe that was what was going on. Maybe Joe Biden thought he is not going to go for re-election. He's just going to be a one-term president. And so he really has the year of 2021 and start of 2022 to get all his policies passed before the midterm election. Well, even if that was the scenario, he could still have done separate recons at the time. They didn't. So what they did was they separated the roads and bridges out from the recon to appease one guy. His name, Joe Manchin. Joe Manchin said, I'm not going to do this. The roads and bridges should go by bipartisan. He's right. And this whole thing is just too big. He's right. 2 for 2 so far. And so they took out the roads and bridges and separated for the recon. Good. Now, you would have thought that you were appeasing him, and at the time, Kristen Sinema. But quickly you would have realized if you are a White House official or a Yalie, perhaps, in New Haven, you're not bred like the streets of New York, like us Columbia graduates. But perhaps if, as a Yalie, you would have realized, well, if you gave the guy the concession and separated the roads and bridges from the recon, that we're going to do both of them. And then as soon as Joe Manchin started saying, just do the roads and bridges, now that you gave me exactly what I wanted, just do the roads and bridges and I'll think about the recon. But that's a setup. Does it smell like a setup? I'm going to jump on the live chat right now. Does it feel as though it was a setup to separate the roads and bridges from the recon so that you would get the agreement of Joe Manchin? And then he turns around and says, okay, let's just deal with the roads and bridges. I'll think about the recon. Thank you for separating it. Wow. What do you think? Was it a setup? Did Joe Biden fall for a Joe Manchin setup to separate the roads and bridges from the recon? Eric says, I agree. The Democrats will take it all on the chin in the midterm elections. Crayola, let's stop getting sushi for 4 months. They want to talk the talk, but not walk the walk, says Janet. Very well said. So I believe the president fell for it. I believe the president got conned by Joe Manchin. Separate the roads and bridges from the recon, and you're good with me. And once they're separated, he says, oh, I don't like your recon anymore. I'm not going to tell you whether I like it or don't like it, but I really like the roads and bridges. Just call the vote on the roads and bridges. I think it was a nice setup. Now, Nancy and Chuck could have put it back together because, you've seen them. They separate things, they put them back together, they put things in, they could have put it back together. They didn't. They kept them separated. And I think this is where it started to go off the rails. The reason why the recon did not pass by July was because they had the message from Joe Manchin, you can't do this all together. You have to separate them out, put recon over here, put roads and bridges over there, and then we're good to go. Well, guess what? Neither body passed by July 4th. Delay tactic? Maybe. But remember, the roads and bridges also has clean energy, anti-coal burning provisions in there as well. So what happened thereafter was the President of the United States, seeing that he does not have agreement from Kristen Sinema and Joe Manchin in the summer months and trying to get them on point. The problem is that the president is not getting yes answers. What you're hearing for the first time again tonight, you haven't heard it for many, many months on this channel, was the president was never getting definitive answers from Kristen Sinema and Joe Manchin during the summer. And when asking them what's wrong, they wouldn't tell him what's wrong. And ultimately, he got to Kristen Sinema, but he couldn't get to Joe Manchin. And as of tonight, you don't know what Joe Manchin's positions are on certain things. Is he really against the paid leave? Not really certain. Is he really against the child tax credit? Really uncertain. Tonight, a series of articles were printed saying Joe Manchin really does not want Americans to have the child tax credit because it's now expiring. And he says, that's not true. Well, come on. If he was right in front of me and he said that, and a provision that your party passed, the child tax credit, $3,600 a year, pay $300 a month, is set to expire if you don't get this recon done in this week, and it expires, and you say, so you must not really want to renew it. That doesn't mean that. Well, yeah, it does mean it. You're being foolish here. You're being evasive. You're not being responsive. You're letting the provision expire. You clearly don't want to give it to it. Who did that before to us? Nancy Pelosi. She let FPUC expire. Well, obviously you don't want to extend FPUC. No, we're going to get done to it. We'll get it done later. She can get it done later. How about first stimulus? Remember first stimulus? Nancy Pelosi had 4 stimulus checks in there originally. March, April, May, June. You heard this on this channel last year when I was outside. There are 4 stimulus checks in there. She took the other 3 out, saying, I'm going to get to them later. Common line here seen so far. Get to it later. Is get to it later an excuse not to get to it? Is that like a common excuse? I'll get to it later. Well, needless to say, whether Joe Biden fell for Joe Manchin by separating them out, they were separated them out. And by separating them out, it caused more problems. It caused a lot of problems. And one of the problems was that suddenly we saw a new group that we had never heard about. The moderate Democrats versus the progressive Democrats. Who is this? Where did they come from? We never heard about them in 2020. Suddenly, when they're in control, suddenly we have two different versions of the same party. Moderate Democrats and progressives. What do they not like about each other? They like both of each other's provisions. So why not pass it? Well, they want theirs to go first to ensure that theirs passes. And if yours doesn't go first, then I don't want. What? Let's recap. Moderate Democrats led by Gothenheimer out of New Jersey said they don't want to support, they don't want the roads, they don't want the recon to go first voting. They want the roads and bridges to go first. And Jalopal leading the progressives said, we don't want the roads and bridges to go first. We want the recon to go first. So what was it? It was a game of chicken, a game of cat and mouse. You go first, I'll go first. You go first, I go first. Up. And ultimately, Jalopal fell for it. Jalopal fell for it. I'm sorry, darling. Love you to death. You fell for it. You got conned again. Joe Biden got conned by Joe Manchin, and Gothenheimer conned you. How did he con her? Because he said, I will vote in favor of the recon if you vote in favor of my roads and bridges first. Well, Jalopal can't be idiotic. I mean, let's make this clear. This doesn't make any sense. Okay, so Gothenheimer will pass your recon in the House. Well, this doesn't work for Jalopal because the problem is the Senate. The problem is not the House. The problem is the Senate. You're holding up this. You're using the House as a card in your back pocket to ensure the recon passes the Senate. Let's recap. Jalopal was blocking the roads and bridges to ensure that the Senate passes the recon. She wasn't worried about the recon passing the House. Of course the recon's going to pass the House. She was using blocking Gothenheimer in the House to make sure it passes the Senate. And she fell for it. She got tricked. She fell for it, and his thing was called for a vote. It passed. And guess what happened the next day? The Senate moderate Democrats said, I don't know about that recon. I don't know. Get back to me in 20 years from now. I'll think about it. Fell for it. So Joe Biden fell for Joe Manchin in July. Then Jalopal fell for Gothenheimer. It doesn't sound clean, does it? That people in the same party are tricking each other. Does it sound normal? Let's jump in the live chat, see what people are saying right now. I want to see what people's comments are right now. Democrats need to get it done. Procrastinators, says Janet. It sounds like a bunch of children arguing, says Virginia. I'll tell you what. Every time there's a big bill to help the people, no matter what party it is, it gets off the rails. Ambi for life. Yeah, that's a great comment for Ambi. They have no problem passing a $200 million bill. If it's $50 million or a $10,000 bill, it'll be passed in 10 seconds. But if it has that T in the word, trillion, oh, yeah, great comment. There is Michael Scott. 4 stimulus packages is bound to vote. Just keep it in their seats. The government is using that. So we're going to get to that. Great comment from Michael. I love that. Eric, seems like you are just as irritated as everyone else. Great comment, Eric. So in this recording tonight, what I'm doing is I'm showing you what went wrong, where we are and where we're going. Because a lot of people will say, whatever happened in July, whatever happened in August, whatever happened in the last 24 hours, it's confusing. And along the way, I am inserting my commentary because it would be sugarcoating for me to not to have an opinion of congressional leaders making mistakes. If a congressional leader makes a mistake, I should say they make a mistake. Their lack of urgency is sad, says John Thomas. Well, that's been the case for these legislators for a while. They're rearranging deckhands on the Titanic, says Marty Elliott. All right, so let's go over then what happened in the last few weeks. 4th of July, Labor Day, Memorial Day weekend. Joe Manchin and Joe Biden, lots of meetings. Improving. Joe Biden doing an insanely great negotiation with Kristen Sinema. He got it, Kristen Sinema, to agree to the recon. Not still clear how he did it. Remember, Kristen Sinema's anti-recon provision was the big pharma, because she has big pharma donations, and he got her on board with that. Got to agree upon the recon. So it's down from 2-1 left to figure out what this recon, and that was Joe Manchin. And so the president invited him to Delaware over the last holiday. I think it was Labor Day, Memorial Day weekend. Invited him over. Got some provisions working around, and it seemed as though there was really, between the two Joes, maybe two provisions at issue: paid leave and maybe something still hanging around from the corporate taxes, how to pay it. That was it. I mean, the president was not giving us any indication of those any other major provision that was stalling out. And guess what? Liz Warren has a quote tonight who says, I've been talking to Joe Manchin. He has never told me anything that he's against in this forced stimulus recon, with the exception of 1 or 2 provisions. So for him to say there's something else that's unresolved, that's not what he's telling me. Wow. So what happened in the last 2 weeks? 2 weeks ago, Leader Schumer said the recon will become a law by Christmas. He also said the recon will pass by Christmas in the Senate. Very different things. Now, this is going into a weekend. You're watching this recording. Guess what? He was supposed to start the voting this coming Monday, and he only needs 4 days for it to become a law, 3 days to pass the Senate, and next week is a 5-day work week. So, wait a second. They still could have gotten it done. They still could have got it done at the time of this recording. At the time of this recording, they got at least 5 more days. If you're not including the weekend, they could work the weekend. If you do include the weekend, you got 7 days to get it to law, which only requires 4 days, and 3 days of passing the Senate. So what happened? What happened was, behind the scenes, the situation was getting a little bit tense. I've never seen a report that said Chuck Schumer's having problems with the President of the United States, with the exception of the student loan debt forgiveness. Chuck Schumer is in charge of telling you, hi, fellow senator, we're voting this coming Monday on the forced stimulus recon, the Build Back Better Act. So be ready to vote at 9 o'clock. See you there. And he has to send out that letter ahead of time. Well, by Wednesday, he was told by the White House that the White House is having meetings with Joe Manchin. The White House is going to determine whether or not we're going to vote this coming week. Hold off and send your letter out, Chuck. So he did. And he did. And fellow Democrats said, Chuck, where's the letter? Are we voting on Monday? And he said, I don't know, because the president's not telling me. And I made the recording, and we talked about it. The president of the United States not telling the guy who determines when we vote or not vote, Chuck Schumer, whether we are voting or not. Now, remember, this is sort of like a puppeteer, because Chuck determines when we vote, not the president of the United States. That out of deference to the president of the United States, Chuck is saying, okay, I'll let you decide whether we're voting on Monday. And on Wednesday, the president said, yeah, we're voting. And Bernie said, yeah, I think it can become law by Christmas Eve next week, 10 days away, 11 days away. And then 24 hours later, the president says on a Thursday night, last night, 24 hours ago, no, we need a few more weeks. What happened? What happened between Wednesday and Thursday? Certainly a line I'm probably going to use on this channel for a couple of weeks. What happened in 24 hours between the president saying, yeah, we're going to get this done before Christmas, and the 24 hours later saying, I need a few more weeks? Let me jump in the live chat and see some of your comments right now. Let's see what some people are saying. Hello, everyone. And there's Francina. And then Janet says, hello, Crayola. They're pushing the goalposts, says Sean. Very great comment. They knew they were going to do this, says Deborah. Schumer and McConnell were probably planning this since they're starting their meetings in October. Now, that's a great comment from Deborah. I love that comment. Deborah's referring to something which makes the president's comments hard to believe. Why? Detail on this channel says last week. We learned last week that since before the week of Halloween in October, Chuck Schumer and Mitch McConnell were having secret meetings to get everything done in December through no partisan battles on procedure. Meaning, if you want to call a vote, I'll let you call the vote. If you have the number of votes, you can do it. I'm not going to be involved with the substance, but I'm not going to procedurally block you. So Chuck went into this month of December thinking that, Chuck went into we went into the month of December thinking that maybe it's not going to get everything done because we have defense spending the debt ceiling limit, the four stimulus recon. Maybe there's too much to be done. Unbeknownst to us, Chuck had the agreement with Mitch. So that was done. Early in this recording, I said Chuck has extra recons in his back pocket. Earlier this year, I featured on this channel that Chuck Schumer reached out to Senate Parliamentarian to seek a ruling that he can redo the third stimulus as a redo recon and doesn't use up a recon card. And she said, yeah. So he saved up recons. I don't have my graphic on air. I can search for it. But I think he has saved up about the moment 5 extra recons he can do at any time right now. So why not take out the climate and make it its own recon? Why not take out the polarizing provision, make its own recon? Why not do the easy stuff in the recon? So I love Deborah's comment because something's not lining up where there's so many things that's making it so simpler for you to do. It's not like they're having problems because there's too much else to do. They got that done. It's not like they don't have enough recon. They got that done. It's not like the Senate parliamentarian, which I did not detail on the live report, special report right before this. The Senate parliamentarian ruled yesterday on the fate of the recon. Guess what? She didn't take much out, folks. She took out the immigration reform. So it's not like she gutted the recon and they have a lot of work to do. Now, very, very strange across the board. Jay says they're not giving us anything. Absolutely, they're giving you something. And we talked about this I don't want to give away too much of what's happening in this video, and a spoiler of what's happening later in this video. But we talked on the afternoon show. Everyone in the afternoon show believes they're giving you everything, but when they think it helps them. More about that in a second. The inflation's hurting everyone, says Miss Scotty. There's Martha. And there's another Martha. Martha Simon and Martha Gutierrez. They were 24/7 on the roads and bridges, but humans without. Oh, I love Deborah's comment. Again, another great comment from Deborah. They did work very quickly to get those roads and bridges. They worked in the middle of the night. They worked on the weekends. Absolutely. That's a great comment. Remember that? So what happened on Wednesday? President said we're going to get it done next week. What happened on Thursday? President said last night, we need a couple more weeks. Wait, why do we need a couple more weeks? She just said last night we don't need a couple more weeks. The reason why he needs a couple more weeks is he does not have enough votes. And who is that person he does not have votes from? Joe Manchin. The reason, and what is mentioned in his statement last night? The name Joe Manchin 3 times. What was the reaction to the statement? Joe Manchin issued his own statement and said, I've seen the president's statement. That's his opinion of what we've been doing. Oh, that sounds like Nene coming after Portia. I just like, excuse me? This is a senator from West Virginia talking about the president of the United States. That does not look very chummy, incredulous. So the president clearly understood the recon was going to fail. But as I detailed over the last 24 hours and certainly 3 weeks before that, having the recon fail in December is not a bad thing. Let's jump into the live chat right now. Let's ask the same question we asked in the afternoon show. I'm not going to tell you if you did not watch the afternoon show, I don't want to spoil the reaction. But on Afternoons LALATE, and right now I'm going to ask you the same question. When the recon was combined with the roads and bridges in July, and Chuck and Nancy and the president thought the recon would fail if you don't separate them out, would you have just called the vote in July to see if it fails or not? Or would you have actually done what they did, separate them out? Vote in July or not vote in July? Let me jump in the live chat and see what you would have done. Would you have voted in July just see if the recon fails or not fail? Or would you have done what the White House and Nancy and Chuck actually did at the time? And Daniel says, what is Biden doing? Let me see some of your questions across the board. There is Martha saying hello to the other Martha. Would you have called the vote in July when they were combined, or would you have separated them out? There's Eric Harbin. I would have called the vote. Deborah Duvall. I would have called the vote in July. Maureen Bocond called the vote in July. Crayola Sushi King. Oh, he became Sushi King. Vote in July. Diane Diaz. Vote in July. Martha, vote in July. Vote in July. Call the vote. Isabella and Anne and Fernando and the both Marthas and Diane and Donna and Isabel and Virginia and Eric B and Susie and Sean and who is that? I can't see. That is Helen. So what I didn't want to spoil for you, and the comments are still coming in. Helen and Betty saying the same thing, and Deborah. This was the same answer the viewers said on Afternoons, which was a special live broadcast just about an hour and a half ago. I asked viewers, would you have just called the vote in July to see if it passed or not passed? And they said, yeah, I would have called the vote. Same viewer, same reaction tonight. My reaction, absolutely. I would have called the vote in July. Why? It's so obvious. Call the vote. Have the guy raise his hand. If it's Joe Manchin or whoever it is, raise his hand and say no. And then every press reporter is going to go to Joe Manchin and ask him outside his office, outside his home, on the streets for the next 3 weeks, why did you vote against it? And he's going to have to give an answer because he raised his hand. It will be in the congressional record. Joe Manchin, West Virginia, vote against the recon in July. Just call the vote. It causes the discussion. It helps you. It doesn't hurt you. It causes people to know why he votes against it. Why does it also help you? Because he has to tell you why. And if there's something wrong, then you go fix it. I voted against. So let's say he votes against it. And then someone asks him, Chris Wallace, I don't know, whoever it is, Anderson Cooper, Joe, why'd you vote against it? I vote against it because of the paid leave. Okay, thank you, Joe. So then we all know he voted against it because of the paid leave. Take the darn paid leave out, then call the vote again. It's pretty simple, isn't it? It's so simple. Vote against it, and then we know why you vote against it. We'll fix it, and then we're going to re-vote, and then we're going to pass it. You can re-vote on the recon, especially if you call the vote in July. You could have redone this in October, in August, and September, and October. You have had 6 more months to redo it. As Mazie Hirono, Dick Durbin, Bernie Sanders, and other senators have said in the last 2 weeks, actually last 4 weeks, at one point you just have to call the vote and have people say yes or no. Because you may actually get a yes from Joe Manchin. You may not get a no. You just don't know, and you can't worry about a failure. So why did the President of the United States not call the vote in July? Why did Chuck and Nancy not call the vote? Because somewhere in Congress 101, they took at the community college they went to, they were taught you never have a bill fail. What's so wrong with having a bill fail? It fails, you do it again, and you try it again, and that passes. What's the big deal? Nancy never wants to have anything fail. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. So that was July. Then, this last week, Chuck had the opportunity to call the vote this coming Monday. The President of the United States had the opportunity to call the vote this coming Monday. As we sit here at the time of this recording, they still have enough days to call the vote on this coming Monday and have it law. So why did they not call the vote? Same reason. They don't know where they are with Joe Manchin. If a person won't tell you where they are, and you ask them 1,000 times, but when they vote, they're going to have to tell you yes or no, why not call the vote in November, December? If you want to apply heat, the way you apply heat is you get them to vote, and they say no, and then the whole nation saw there was one guy that voted no. Very, very unclear across the board. So, where are we right now? Where we are right now is that everything that was in the recon is still in the recon, with the exception of the immigration reform basically taken out by the Senate parliamentarian, and that the recon is still sitting in the Senate. So, where do we go next? The recon will be the push by the White House, the Democrats, and of course the press and the news reporters and myself in the next few days and the week after that, as we go into early January, asking when and specifically how. The difference here is that this is going to look like last year, where legislators say, but you allowed several of your provisions to expire. This is where I'm going to now ask the next question. And I want to see your answer to the question as well. You answer the question in the live chat. I'm going to jump in the live chat. There's a series of quotes that says Joe Biden believes that not getting the recon done in December doesn't impact him politically whatsoever. Well, here is the question. If the President of the United States, his best stuff from 2021 was third stimulus, the child tax credit, the earned income tax credit for hazard pay, the child care credit, and all these incredible provisions that are now expiring in a couple of days because they have not got the fourth stimulus done. Why is he allowing them to expire? Why is the President of the United States allowing these provisions to expire? Jump in the live chat right now. I don't have an opinion, so I want to see what your opinion is. Why do you think the President of the United States is allowing provisions in third stimulus to expire? And, you could say something like he doesn't care, but try to give me a more sort of insight as to why you think he's allowing the provisions to expire. Here is a question from Love. While all that stuff was in there, why couldn't they have done this by executive order? They could have. They could have done a lot of this by executive order. Great question across the board. Tell me why the president is allowing the provisions in the third stimulus to expire. If these are the best things he did of 2021, and they're going away. Let's see. Robert Jones says seats for stimulus. The screen locked up. Sherry Chaffee says, heck, he does. Let me see. He hasn't. He's not using his brain. He's scared of failure. Laura, I like that. I like that analysis. So that's a very good, interesting analysis. She thinks he's afraid of failure, which is sort of like what we're talking about with Nancy, that somehow they were taught in some college that you never call something for a vote that's going to fail. He hasn't thought how this is going to impact his running for re-election, says Maureen. I think you're exactly correct. I think that's great. Well said. Michael, I think he doesn't care about the working class, middle people. He only cares about himself. Okay, so let me read Michael's comment again, and then let me give you my analysis. And if you watched Afternoons LA, keep your mouth closed, because I don't want you to spoil it for everyone else. I think this is what Michael says. I think Biden doesn't care about the working class, middle people. He only cares about himself. Okay, so here is what's strange. I'm going to ask you a question. The President of the United States Inside Report says he does not think moving this recon to January hurts him politically. Well, strangely enough, moving the recon to January moves it closer to the midterm elections. Do you think the President of the United States is moving the fourth stimulus recon closer to the midterm elections to help his chances for re-election? And that is why it's moving to January. Not so much that he doesn't think it doesn't going to fail. Do you think the President of the United States, yes or no? Write in the comments, yes or no. Do you think he is moving the recon to January so that passage of it would be closer to the midterm elections to help his re-election? Miss Scotty, I think I agree. Daniel Grimes, I have no idea what he's doing. Virginia, I think he already is failing. Yes, here come the yeses. So Deborah says yes. Diane says yes. The question I asked is yes or no. Do you think the president's moving the recon to January so it's closer to the midterm elections to help his re-election? There's some no's in here. Sharon says no. Jean says no. Susan says yes. Isabella says yes. Suzanne says unknown. Eric says no. Marty says no. Teresa says yes. Christina says yes. Michael says yes. Joanne says no. Interesting. So Crayola says yes, some yes. So we're about 70% yes, 30% no. The afternoon show was 100% yes. I was overwhelmed. Viewers on the afternoon show said absolutely. Maybe I asked it, maybe I set it up and did a little bit differently, but they said absolutely. They think the president's priority is to get this recon as an anchor to win the midterm elections. Whether it's moving it or whether it is, he's using it for the midterm elections. What is my opinion of the situation? I think that the president is obsessed with wins. Obsessed with wins to the point that it's becoming detrimental to himself. He just wants to always look like he's winning, and you can't do that. Remember, case in point, when he came out of that meeting with Kristen Sinema and the moderates to say about the roads and bridges, we got it done, we're finished. And he stood in front of the White House with the hands up, we're done. And it was like the roads and bridges wasn't done for like 7 more months later. He just wants to look like he's always winning. And I think whether you see it's, a personality trait or a politician trait, I just think he always wants to look like he's winning. And I think he should just focus on passing things. Just focus on passing things, and we'll decide whether you're winning or not. And moving the recon into January, yes, it's close to the midterm elections. I don't think it's going to help him. I think a lot of people are fed up with. Well, Cheryl has a great comment. I don't think it's going to help him. That's a different question. Moving it, will it help it or not? I'm just asking, why do you think he is so nonchalant about moving it to January? Now, if you read his comments about getting this done in January, there's something in the comments I don't particularly like. This is his blood and guts, this four systems recon. You're doing this because you want to solve this problem, solve that problem, fix this problem, this problem. You should be sort of, emotional that you didn't get it done by December. You should be, I'm really upset we didn't get it done by December, but we're going to get it done. And you should, someone said, I think it was Eric, maybe it was on the after show. He says, you have a little bit of angst tonight, LA. I do have a little bit of angst because I have to show some emotion on this because I think there's some big, major mistakes made by this White House during the last few months of this recon. And I want to make sure everyone's up to date. I would have liked something from the president on this. Let me jump back in the live chat. The person who got SSI does not help the inflation very much. Why vote for people who can't make a decision? I like Janet's comment, and guess who's saying that comment tonight? Democratic senators are saying about the Democratic caucus tonight that the Democratic caucus cannot figure out what their message is. And there's too much messaging going on across the board. And the problem I have detailed on this channel since day one of the White House is his obsession with climate. And I think it is what has caused the problem with the recon. Climate is why we are sitting here on the 16th, 17th, whatever day it is, of December, and the recon is not law. Why? Because the president put in, of a $3.1 trillion recon, $550 billion to climate. Do you remember that? Yeah. And guess what? Everything else got reduced in the recon to bring it down to 1.9. The climate is still at 550. So the climate didn't get reduced. Everything else got reduced. Also, the president put in a clean energy provision, which was a deal breaker to Joe Manchin, who told the president back in the spring, it's a deal breaker, you leave it in there, I'm voting against the recon. I mean, this is where I sort of shake my head. So you need all your Democratic senators to say yes. And one says to you in the spring, you got to take out a provision and you leave it in there to stick it to the guy. When the guy says, take it out, Mr. President, and you're still keeping it in there, someone in this group is very pig-headed. I don't know who in this White House is so stubborn that is not listening to very obvious stuff. I'm not taking Joe Manchin's position here, folks, understand. But you got to do the number count. There's a guy who says, you need my vote. I need this provision out. You don't take it out. I'm not voting in favor of it. And they go from all the way from the spring to September until it's taken out in September. It's the clean energy provision. Then he says, okay, now we're working. Now we're working for favor. Crayola Sushi 2024. Yeah, Crayola Sushi is running for president, so you know that. What happened to saying he won't sign with both bills? Susan Horwath, great comment. So I did a lot about that on the afternoon show. The president said he would not sign the roads and bridges or the recon unless they're both on his desk. He didn't keep that promise. He also said that he will not allow the vote to be called on the roads and bridges unless we are calling the vote on the recon at the same time. He did not keep his promise. And then Jalapal, it's all her fault. I'm sorry, Harley. I'm sorry, darling, but it's all your fault. You got hoodwinked by Gothenheimer. Gothenheimer, the moderate Democrats, said, I'm not going to vote in favor of your recon if you don't vote in favor of my roads and bridges. And she said, okay, let's just make a deal. I'll vote in favor of yours, you vote in favor of mine. Okay, fine. And mine's going to go first, roads and bridges, not the recon. She said, fine. Well, why does that not work, that deal? Because her problem is not the House. Her problem is the Senate. Her problem is that you allow the roads and bridges to pass in the House. You have no cards in your back pocket to ensure the senators vote in favor of the recon. It was always going to pass the House. That's not the problem. Don't they realize they're shooting themselves in the foot, Mama Bear? They They look like they're getting tricked left and right. Joe Manchin tricked the president, splitting the recon and the roads and bridges up. Gothenheimer tricked Jalopal to allowing his thing to go first, and that allowed the Senate not to have a recon pass. And it just keeps on going on and on. Joe Manchin saying, I will come to the table if you take clean energy out of the recon. Well, he comes to the table, but he doesn't agree to the rest of the package. We need a separate president for the working class. So the biggest problem was that everything was put in this recon together, a monstrous recon with so many provisions in there. And with that, where are we going? So one, the recon will become law. It absolutely will become law. As viewers on the afternoon show, and you certainly see in this live chat as well, everyone believes they're going to make it law, but they're making it law at this point potentially for when it helps their political careers more than when it helps your wallet, which is unfortunate. It's very, very unfortunate. And we can't be negative about it. We have to sort of accept it. But I want you to understand that's what's going on. Why is there no sense of urgency? Why is there no this? Why delay? Why that? Because they're doing it when it helps their political career. And we've seen this back in 2020 where Nancy Pelosi could have agreed to the second stimulus of Donald Trump. She didn't. It doesn't mean she doesn't want to send out money from second stimulus to you in July of 2020. It means she wants Donald Trump gone. She wanted Donald Trump gone more than to get you second stimulus in July of 2020 or November 2020. That's how they are. Their political careers are sometimes more important than your financial livelihood. And we just have to be frank about that. That doesn't mean the recon's not going to pass. The recon will pass. The good news is that everything is so fluid. Everything is so fluid that everything was in there is still in there. The push to put that MSC still in there. The Democratic senators who want you to have an MSC, Casey, Coons, Warren, Wyden, Sanders, Schumer, have a series of quote out in the last 24 hours, at least two of them, where they're not happy with what's going on, just like you and I are tonight, where they said, you know what? You could have got this done in July, before Christmas. You just didn't want to call the vote. So understand, they still have the same mindset issue. It's these workaround people in the White House that are looking at something else about climate and looking about something else that is working sort of divisively on the timeline. What we're talking about a lot in this video is timeline. Coming up next is the continuation of evening's programming tonight. It's a slightly different schedule tonight. First, at 5 o'clock, which is normally when Evenings LALATE airs, will be Mornings LALATE. Because of an error made earlier today, Mornings LALATE did not air at 9 o'clock this morning. So Mornings LALATE will air right in about 10 minutes from now. This video will automatically take you to Mornings LALATE, which will air at 5 o'clock, the normal Evenings LALATE show. Then after Mornings LALATE, we continue our new programming schedule for Evenings LALATE on this channel, which is 6 o'clock is Evenings Countdown, always on this channel. Evenings Countdown, 6 o'clock. Holiday Stream Stimulus at 7 o'clock. This is all Pacific Standard Time. And then launched last night, or actually 2 nights ago, and continuing tonight, is the new doubleheader of 8 o'clock. Calcino airing live at 8 o'clock. And then also at 8 o'clock, a new show called Evenings Extra. So we go Evenings LALATE, Evenings Countdown, Holiday Stream Stimulus. And then at 8 o'clock, you have 2 shows to choose from. Either a comedy show, Calcino, or a big informational show, Evenings Extra. And the last 2 nights, Evenings Extra has been a blockbuster. I was just shocked. People love that time slot because it's 8 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And with that, stay with this video. It'll automatically take you to Mornings LA, which is about to start in about 10 minutes after this. And stay with me all weekend long, because guess what? All weekend long, you're going to start to see those quotes from those Democrats to say, should have called the vote, should have called the vote. This is what's happening. There's a lot of reaction coming in from those Democrats, and I will have those reactions. It's a lot of fluid situation. We have more details of what day everything is going to come together. We have more details of what are the provisions at issue and how they can be made more robust. And of course, the latest details on that MSC. And with that, I appreciate you throughout the day. Thank you for your incredible comments in the live chat. Let's see who is in the live chat to wrap it up for tonight. We have Marty Elliott. We have Dean Powell. We have Deborah Duvall. How are you? There is Charlotte Bud. There's Vanzwala, Paula, and Shari Shafani, John Thompson. There's Terry Larson. There's Miss Scotty, Virginia Echolay. There is Creole Shishiki. Where did Creole Shishiki come up with that name? I don't know. There's Gary Owens. There's Becky Millward as well. And there's Diane N. Keep it positive, keep it motivated. The purpose of tonight's video is to give you as much information to understand where we are right now. Now you're up to date to where we are right now. Now we can focus going forward about all the incredible checks in this fourth stimulus recon. We're going to go over all this weekend long about the big money on the third stimulus. Now that you're caught up, you have all those details. And with that, I want you part of this incredible family. So subscribe, like this video, and consider becoming a member. Have a beautiful evening, and join me next as the incredible Mornings LALATE in an unusual time slot airs right after this video. And then we go into Evening's Countdown, always at 6 o'clock. Holiday Stream Cinemas at 7. And the new show, Evenings Extra, at 8 o'clock, also with Calcino. And have a beautiful evening.